There's a quiet kind of testing that happens in relationships. Tests that are never announced, never written on paper, and yet hold the power to define the future of love. Most men won't admit they test women. It's not malicious, not even conscious half the time. It's instinct, born out of fear, curiosity, and the desire to find something real in a world that often feels temporary. Because a man, when he truly begins to care, becomes a scientist of emotion. He wants to know, can I trust her heart when mine begins to tremble? Will she stand beside me when the lights go dim? So today we're going to uncover the 7 subtle ways men test women, not to play games, but to measure character, loyalty, and emotional strength. And while these tests may seem unfair, they're windows into how love proves itself in silence. There is a strange magic in patience, though most of us rarely see it that way. It doesn't shimmer or sparkle like the grand gestures of love we grow up imagining. It's quiet, often invisible, and yet it's the thread that holds everything real together. Patience is what separates impulse from intention and illusion from truth. In love, patience isn't a weakness, it's proof of strength, a quiet declaration that what you feel is real enough to wait for. When a man begins to care for a woman, he often watches how she handles the rhythm of uncertainty. He might not do it on purpose, but instinctively he senses that true character isn't revealed when things are easy. It's revealed when they aren't. He'll notice how she reacts when he pulls back slightly, when he becomes distant for reasons he can't even explain to himself. Does she assume the worst? Does she turn cold, or does she trust the space between them enough to believe it won't last forever? It's not to trick, it's a search for safety. He's trying to understand whether her affection can withstand the pauses, the quiet, the moments that feel like nothing is happening. Patience in love is a rare art. It isn't about waiting endlessly or tolerating neglect. It's about giving room for growth, for 2 imperfect people to stumble their way into understanding each other. In a world where everything moves at lightning speed, where messages demand instant replies and affection is measured in emojis, patience feels almost radical. Yet it is the one thing that allows love to deepen. Every meaningful connection needs time to reveal what lies beneath the surface. Without patience, we end up mistaking infatuation for intimacy and urgency for passion. There's an old story about a gardener who planted 2 seeds at the same time. One sprouted within days, its leaves bright and eager, stretching toward the light. The other seemed dormant. Weeks passed, then months with no sign of life. People told the gardener to give up, to plant something new. But he refused. He watered the soil, tended to it quietly, believing growth was happening somewhere beneath the surface. When the second plant finally broke through, it grew taller, stronger, and its roots ran deeper than anyone had imagined. That's what patience looks like in love. The willingness to believe that something beautiful is growing, even when you can't yet see it. Patience doesn't mean silence. It means restraint, the kind that stops you from sending that angry message or demanding answers before someone is ready to give them. It means trusting that if something is meant to last, it won't crumble under a little uncertainty. Love that is forced to bloom too soon often wilts quickly, but the love that's allowed to unfold naturally tends to endure. Every relationship, no matter how strong, will face moments of waiting, for healing, for clarity, for courage. The way we move through those moments defines us far more than the moments of excitement ever could. There's a quiet dignity in not rushing someone else's heart. To love someone truly is to understand that timing is sacred. A person may be learning how to unlearn their fears, to trust again after betrayal, or to believe they are worthy of love. Sometimes patience isn't waiting for someone to change, but waiting for them to feel safe enough to be who they already are. When a woman shows patience, she's not being passive. She's creating a space where love can breathe without pressure. But patience can also be misunderstood. It's not blind endurance or the acceptance of being taken for granted. It's not waiting for someone who never intends to meet you halfway. True patience is rooted in self-respect. It knows the difference between giving someone time and giving someone permission to waste yours. It's a balance, the grace to wait without losing yourself, and the wisdom to walk away when waiting becomes self-betrayal. So many people mistake impatience for passion. They think love must be loud, fast, and consuming. But real love, the kind that endures storms, is often calm. It's steady. It's not about constant fireworks. It's about the warmth that doesn't fade when the night grows cold. Patience transforms love from a fleeting feeling into a choice made again and again, even when emotions waver. It allows people to show up imperfectly, to learn, to fail, and to try again without the fear of being discarded for not being perfect yet. Think of the moments when patience has changed you, when you waited for an apology that took longer than you'd hoped, or for a door to open that you were sure had closed for good. Those moments may have stretched your faith thin, but they also made you stronger. Patience teaches endurance, but more importantly, it teaches perspective. It reminds you that good things often take longer because they are being built to last. In love, patience often reveals the truth more than words ever can. It shows whether affection is genuine or conditional. Anyone can love when it's convenient. But it takes a rare heart to love through confusion, through distance, through silence. Patience is what keeps you from turning away too soon, from missing the miracle that might have bloomed if you'd only waited a little longer. And yet patience doesn't mean waiting forever. It's knowing when to hold on and when to let go. Sometimes the test of patience is not about endurance, but about discernment. Recognizing when the waiting is sacred and when it has become an excuse for fear. There's a strength in saying, I have given this time, I have given this love, and now I release it with peace. That too is patience, the kind that honors both yourself and the other person. When a man tests a woman's patience, what he's really looking for isn't submission, it's understanding. He's looking for the woman who can hold space for him without collapsing under uncertainty. The one who doesn't demand perfection, but presence. The one who trusts that love can take its time, that it doesn't need to be proven by how fast it moves, but by how deeply it lasts. And perhaps, in a quiet way, patience is the most romantic gesture of all, because it says, I see who you are becoming, and I'm willing to walk beside you while you get there. It says, I believe in something larger than this moment, in what we could be if we both just breathe. In a world that glorifies speed, patience feels like rebellion, but it's the rebellion that builds something worth keeping, the kind of love that's not built on rush, fear, or impulse, but on faith. Faith that what's real won't disappear just because it takes time to unfold. Patience, after all, is not waiting for something to happen. It's choosing to believe that what is already happening is enough, that love, even in its pauses and silences, is still growing, still learning, still alive. And if you can hold on to that truth, you'll find that patience doesn't just test love, it transforms it. There comes a moment in every connection when affection is no longer measured by sweet words or grand gestures, but by how two people handle the word no. It is a small word, only 2 letters, yet carries the weight of integrity, of self-worth, of truth. Boundaries are the invisible lines that tell others where respect begins. They are not walls to keep people out, but doors that open only to those who know how to knock. And though many speak of love as selfless, the truth is that love without boundaries becomes something fragile, unrecognizable, even dangerous. Every deep relationship will face the test of boundaries, and most people do not even realize when it arrives. It often begins quietly, disguised as a simple disagreement, a teasing remark that goes too far, or a moment when someone crosses a line just to see what will happen. In those moments, what we allow tells the story of how much we value ourselves. The world teaches us to be accommodating, to be kind, to say yes even when our hearts are screaming no. But every time we betray our own limits in the name of keeping peace, we teach others that our peace is not worth keeping. Boundaries are not a punishment. They are the language of self-respect. They say, I can love you deeply, but not at the expense of losing myself. Real connection doesn't require submission. It requires 2 people who are whole enough to meet each other without trying to consume one another. When one person sets a boundary, they are not building distance. They are creating clarity. And clarity though uncomfortable, is the foundation of trust. The test of boundaries often reveals itself when someone you care about challenges your values, sometimes unknowingly. It may come as a joke that makes you uncomfortable, or a request that asks you to bend too far. In that fragile space between wanting to please and needing to protect yourself, love becomes a mirror. It asks, will you stand for yourself here, or will you shrink to keep me comfortable? The choice you make in that moment doesn't just define your relationship, it defines you. There's a quiet strength in being able to say, I understand you, but I disagree. It takes courage to honor your truth, even when it risks disapproval. Many people believe that setting boundaries will make them seem unloving or difficult, but the opposite is true. Boundaries make love cleaner, safer, and more enduring. Without them, affection becomes blurred, expectations tangled, and resentment inevitable. The ones who truly care for you will not be frightened by your limits. They will feel safer because of them. There is a story of a woman who loved deeply but feared conflict. Every time her partner crossed a line, she told herself it wasn't worth mentioning. She smiled through discomfort, laughed off the comments that stung, and convinced herself that silence was strength. But silence, when it protects the wrong things, becomes a slow erosion. Over time, she noticed she no longer recognized herself. Her laughter was polite, her eyes tired. The relationship hadn't broken because of betrayal. It had withered from neglect, the quiet kind that comes when one soul forgets its worth. It was only when she finally said, this is not okay, that she rediscovered the sound of her own voice. The relationship changed, not because she became colder, but because she finally became honest. Boundaries are not born from anger, they are born from clarity. They tell the world what kind of love we are capable of giving and what kind of treatment we are no longer willing to accept. They are the invisible map that guides others on how to love us properly. To live without them is to invite confusion, and confusion always breeds pain. A person who cannot respect your limits does not deserve your closeness. True intimacy is built not on control but on consent, the mutual understanding that both hearts are free and equal. Yet for many, setting boundaries feels terrifying. It brings the fear of rejection, the fear of being misunderstood. But the truth is, every time you assert your limits with compassion, you filter out what is not meant for you. The people who leave when you start honoring yourself were never truly there for the right reasons. Boundaries do not chase away love. They reveal it. They separate those who love your freedom from those who only loved your compliance. In a healthy relationship, both people learn to honor not only their own boundaries, but each other's. When one says no, it's not an act of rebellion, it's an act of trust. It means, I believe you care enough to hear me. That trust grows when the response to no is not defensiveness, but understanding. Love matures in that space, the space where two people can disagree without destroying each other, where individuality is not seen as a threat, but as a strength. The most respectful kind of love doesn't demand constant access. It allows space. It knows that closeness means nothing if it costs authenticity. It's in the moments when one partner needs solitude, or when one draws a line against something that feels wrong, that love proves itself. It is not how passionately we hold each other that defines love's strength, but how gently we release control. Boundaries also teach us empathy. When we respect the lines others draw, we learn humility, the understanding that love cannot be forced. We learn to listen, to adapt, to care without possession. The same patience we expect for our own limits must be given in return. No two people love in exactly the same way, and boundaries are the meeting point between those differences. They allow two worlds to coexist without one swallowing the other. And when love survives the test of boundaries, it becomes more beautiful than before. It grows roots. It becomes steady, secure, unthreatened by individuality. There is a tenderness that exists between two people who know they can be honest without fear of losing each other. That is the kind of love that lasts. Not because it is easy, but because it is built on respect. there will always be those who test your limits, not to hurt you, but to understand where the edges of your strength lie. How you respond to that test determines the quality of every relationship you'll ever have. Boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges that ensure what flows between two hearts is real, mutual, and kind. The greatest lesson of all is this: when you set a boundary, you are not rejecting someone else. You are choosing yourself. And that choice is not selfish. It is sacred. Because love without boundaries is not love. It's surrender. And while surrender may feel noble, it often leads to losing the very thing that makes love worth having, your own sense of self. The test of boundaries, then, is the test of truth. It asks whether your love is deep enough to be honest, strong enough to stand firm, and kind enough to respect another's space while protecting your own. To pass it is not to win someone's approval, but to earn your own. And that, perhaps, is where all real love begins, with the courage to say, softly but firmly, this is who I am, and this is how I deserve to be treated. There is a moment in every connection when silence grows louder than words, when one person steps back, not out of malice, but to see what happens in their absence. It is a quiet, unspoken test, one that reveals whether love is built on dependence or on genuine strength. The test of independence is not about distance or detachment. It is about discovering whether two people can still stand tall as individuals while walking side by side. True love, after all, is not about losing yourself to another, but about finding the courage to remain whole while being deeply connected. When one person pulls away for a while, it's rarely to play games. Sometimes it's a search for air, for understanding, for the reassurance that affection doesn't collapse when space enters the room. What they're really asking, without saying a word, is, will you still be yourself when I'm not around? Will your world still have light, even if I'm not holding the match? Because real connection doesn't chain two souls together. It allows them to move freely, to breathe, to grow. Independence in love is often misunderstood. People think it means coldness, distance, or pride, but independence is not the absence of closeness. It's the foundation that makes closeness possible. It's knowing that you bring something to the relationship because you have built a life of your own. It's the difference between loving someone and leaning on them so heavily that you both fall when one stumbles. Love that depends entirely on another person's presence is not love, it's fear disguised as devotion. There's a quiet beauty in watching someone you love chase their own dreams, even when those dreams don't include you at every step. It's easy to want to be the center of their universe, but real love doesn't demand that kind of ownership. It says, I want to see you shine, even when your light is far from me. That kind of freedom doesn't weaken the bond, it strengthens it. Because the healthiest relationships are the ones where both people are whole on their own, but choose to walk together anyway. Imagine two trees growing side by side. If their roots are too close, they tangle, stealing each other's strength. But when they stand just far enough apart, their roots grow deep, their branches wide, and they both thrive. That's what independence in love looks like. Two people growing toward the same sun, but never losing their own ground. So often people confuse love with constant proximity. They think if someone needs time alone, it means the connection is fading. But the truth is, space in love is not a threat. It's nourishment. It's the oxygen that keeps the flame alive. When you can let someone go out into the world, trusting they'll come back, you've built something far stronger than dependence. You've built trust. There's something deeply magnetic about a person who knows how to be alone without being lonely, who doesn't lose their sense of identity when they fall in love, but instead becomes even more themselves. They inspire respect, not because they're distant, but because they're grounded. When you meet someone like that, you don't have to wonder if they're with you out of need. They're with you out of choice, and that makes their love all the more powerful. The test of independence often appears in subtle ways. It shows up when plans fall through and one partner suddenly has to fill the evening alone. It appears when ambitions pull in different directions, or when silence stretches between two people who used to talk endlessly. In those moments, the insecure heart panics, but the grounded heart breathes. It knows that love is not measured by constant contact, but by steady faith. To love another person deeply while remaining independent is one of the hardest things to master. It asks you to trust yourself enough to let go, to allow your partner their freedom without feeling abandoned. It requires maturity to understand that you cannot fill every space in someone's soul, nor should you try. The spaces that remain empty are where self-discovery lives, and that discovery often makes love even richer when they return to share it. There is nothing more beautiful than two people who can exist fully apart, yet choose to come back to one another, again and again, not because they have to, but because they want to. Independence makes love a choice, not a habit. It removes the desperation that so often poisons affection and replaces it with peace. So when life tests your independence in love, when you find yourself missing someone, wondering if distance will dull the bond, remember this: the heart does not lose what is real by letting it breathe. The strength of your love is not proven by how tightly you hold on, but by how freely you both grow. And if in the end you can look at each other and see not need but respect, not fear but trust, then you've passed one of love's truest tests. Because independence, when rooted in love, doesn't divide, it deepens. It reminds you that the greatest thing you can offer another soul is not your dependence, but your wholeness. There is a moment in every connection when the mask slips, when perfection fades, and truth finally shows its face. It might come as a confession, a mistake, or a moment of failure. And in that fragile instant, when vulnerability enters the room, the real test begins, the test of reaction. How we respond when someone reveals their imperfect, uncertain, or broken self determines whether what we share is real love or simply a performance. Because affection is easy when everything looks beautiful, but it's how we behave in the storm that reveals the strength of what we feel. When a person opens up about their fears, their failures, or the insecurities they've buried for years, they are not seeking pity. They are seeking safety. They are asking, without words, will you still see me the same way now that you know I'm not perfect? It is a terrifying question, one we often ask only once. Because if the answer is rejection, or ridicule, or silence, something inside quietly shuts down. And once that happens, no amount of apology or reassurance can easily bring it back. The test of reaction isn't about grand emotional displays. It's about the small, invisible moments when someone dares to be honest. It's how you respond when their story is darker than you imagined, or when their truth doesn't fit your idea of who they should be. It's how you hold space for them when their confidence falters, or when life has humbled them beyond words. Love that cannot survive these moments was never built to last. Because love is not only the joy of being seen, it is the safety of being seen at your worst. Think of the times you've been vulnerable, when you said something you weren't proud of, or confessed something you feared would make you unlovable. What you needed most in that moment wasn't advice. It wasn't someone fixing it for you. It was understanding, a steady hand, a look that said, I'm still here. That kind of compassion doesn't require explanation. It only requires presence. It is in those quiet, wordless gestures, someone listening without judgment, someone choosing patience over pride, that love proves itself. There's a particular kind of courage that comes with letting someone see your weakness. The world teaches us to be composed, to be resilient, to never show the cracks. But the truth is, the cracks are where connection happens. If we never falter, we never give others the chance to show us their depth. The person who reacts with empathy when they see you stumble is the one who sees you beyond your image. Their compassion says, you don't have to impress me, just be. And yet not everyone passes this test. Some react with irritation, others with judgment, some with indifference. They see vulnerability as inconvenience, not invitation. And that's when you learn that not everyone is capable of loving in the way love demands. Because love, at its purest, is not about fixing or rescuing. It's about witnessing. It's about saying, you don't have to hide here. You can fall apart and I'll still see the whole of you. That is the rarest kind of loyalty. Reaction is the heartbeat of understanding. It shapes the future of every relationship. When someone shows you their pain, your reaction becomes the echo they will hear in their mind for years. Respond with tenderness, and you build trust that can outlast distance, time, even disappointment. Respond with impatience or coldness, and you plant a seed of doubt that will grow quietly until it becomes a wall. Every time we choose kindness over reaction, empathy over ego, we make love a little more possible. The irony is that those who seem strongest often need gentleness the most. They are the ones who rarely ask for comfort, who carry their pain like armor. But when they finally let it slip, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of immense trust. To respond with care in that moment is to honor that trust. It's saying, "You are safe with me." Those 4 words, though unspoken, can heal wounds deeper than years of reassurance ever could. Reactions are powerful because they create memories that outlive the moment. People rarely forget how they felt in your presence when they were vulnerable. They might forget your words, but they will always remember whether your tone was warm or cold, whether your eyes softened or hardened. The smallest reaction, a sigh, a pause, a smile, can change everything. It takes emotional maturity to respond with compassion when your own ego wants to defend, when frustration bubbles, or when fear whispers that you might get hurt in the process. But those who master their reactions don't just protect the bond, they deepen it. Because love is not about constant harmony. It's about grace in the moments when harmony breaks. When someone shares their truth, they are handing you a piece of their soul. Your reaction determines whether they feel free or foolish for doing so. And once trust is broken, it doesn't shatter loudly. It fades quietly, replaced by caution, by distance, by the safety of silence. That's why the test of reaction is sacred. It's not just about understanding another person. It's about proving that kindness is stronger than pride. In the end, the way we react to the fragile moments defines who we are far more than how we behave in triumph. Anyone can celebrate another's strength, but it takes wisdom to embrace their weakness, to respond to pain with patience, to confusion with compassion, to imperfection with acceptance. That is where real love lives, because love isn't measured in grand declarations or promises. It's measured in the moments when someone needed gentleness and you gave it freely. There comes a time in every relationship when words lose their power, when promises begin to fade into routine. And the only thing left to measure love by is consistency. It's not the grand declarations that keep people close. It's the quiet, steady gestures repeated over time. The ones that ask for no praise, no attention, but speak volumes through reliability. Consistency is love's quiet language, its truest proof. It doesn't arrive with fireworks or excitement, but with the same gentle certainty that the sun will rise every morning. We live in a world that adores intensity. People chase passion, drama, and sparks, mistaking them for depth. But real love is not a storm. It's the calm after. It's the hand that still reaches for yours when the excitement fades. The test of consistency doesn't appear when everything is thrilling and new. It appears in the ordinary days, in the moments when nothing spectacular is happening. It's how someone treats you when they're tired, busy, or no longer trying to impress. It's whether their kindness endures when the mood shifts or when life grows inconvenient. When affection begins, everything feels effortless. Every word is thoughtful, every glance full of promise. But time has a way of stripping away illusions. People reveal their habits, their tempers, their true priorities. And that's when the real story begins. Because love, in its purest form, is not about how deeply you feel. It's about how faithfully you show up, even when it's hard. Consistency is the heartbeat that keeps connection alive after emotion has ebbed and flowed 1,000 times. There's a certain magic in knowing someone will be there, not because it's easy, but because they choose to be. You don't have to wonder if they'll change their mind when life becomes complicated or when temptation knocks at the door. Their presence is quiet but unwavering, and that steadiness becomes its own kind of security. You stop needing reassurance because their actions speak louder than any promise could. Consistency isn't perfection. It doesn't mean never failing, never arguing, never slipping. It means returning again and again with sincerity. It's in the apology that follows harsh words, the effort made to mend what was broken, the choice to stay committed to understanding even when frustration tempts you to give up. Consistency is not the absence of mistakes, it's the courage to keep showing up despite them. It's easy to be kind once. It's easy to be romantic for a season, but to remain patient through misunderstanding, to be gentle in anger, to love through ordinary days that offer no reward. That is rare. Many can fall in love, but few can stay loving. Consistency asks for something most people fear to give: endurance. The willingness to love when feelings fluctuate, to stay when novelty fades, to believe in the quiet rhythm of commitment. You can often tell the difference between a fleeting affection and something lasting by watching how someone behaves when no one is watching. Do they still speak gently when the world isn't listening? Do they still honor your trust when there's nothing to gain? Do they treat you with the same respect on the days when you're difficult to love as they did on the days when you were easy to adore? That's the essence of the test. Anyone can love when it's convenient, but it takes integrity to love consistently. Life will test every bond. There will be seasons when affection feels like work, when distance creeps in, when misunderstanding takes the place of laughter. In those moments, consistency is what steadies the heart. It's the reminder that even when emotions falter, commitment doesn't. And sometimes that steady hand reaching for you in silence means more than 1,000 words ever could. Think of the people who have truly shaped your life. Chances are they weren't the ones who dazzled you with grand gestures. They were the ones who showed up every time. The ones who remembered your quiet fears, who stood beside you in the shadows as faithfully as in the light. Their consistency built trust, and that trust became the foundation of peace. You never had to question their intentions because their actions never wavered. Love that endures isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It builds quietly through patterns of reliability. It's the text you receive when you didn't expect it. The steady presence during illness, the calm voice that says, "We'll figure it out," instead of walking away. It's the reassurance that you're not being loved for a version of yourself that's easy, but for your whole imperfect self. In the end, consistency is not just a test of affection. It's a mirror of character. It shows who can keep their word long after the excitement has gone. It proves who values truth over convenience, loyalty over impulse. It's the difference between love that flickers and love that stays lit, even in the dark, because in the quiet rhythm of consistent care, hearts find what they crave most. Not perfection, not passion, but peace. The peace of knowing that no matter how many storms may come, there will always be one soul who keeps showing up just as they promised they would. The truth is, these tests aren't about control. They're about curiosity, about finding someone whose loyalty doesn't vanish when things get difficult. So, if you ever feel you're being tested, remember this. It's not about passing with perfection. It's about staying authentic through every trial. Because the right man isn't looking for someone flawless. He's looking for someone real. And when he finds that, all the tests end because love finally begins.